Skinwalkers are among the most feared beings in Native American lore, and their stories have circulated for centuries across the American Southwest. To understand what a skinwalker truly is, you must first understand that the Navajo, or Daihe, have an entire worldview built on balance, harmony, and respect for the natural world. In this worldview, every life form carries a spiritual role, and every action is meant to maintain a sacred equilibrium known as HCH. A skinwalker represents the opposite of this harmony, a deliberate choice to walk a path of imbalance that corrupts the natural order. The Navajo word most associated with skinwalkers is Yi-Nald-Lushi, often translated as "with it." He goes on all fours. This phrase is less a name and more a description of the method by which a skinwalker transforms into an animal. In Navajo belief, skinwalkers are not misunderstood people or tragic figures. They are individuals who intentionally violated sacred teachings for personal gain. Traditionally, a person becomes a skinwalker by committing a profound act of spiritual evil, often one meant to sever their connection to humanity. These individuals then learn forbidden witchcraft practices designed to manipulate life, death, and transformation. Unlike popular media portrayals, skinwalkers are not random shapeshifters who change forms at will. Their abilities come through dark rituals that corrupt both body and spirit. Most often, they take the form of animals associated with stealth, power, or danger, such as coyotes, wolves, owls, foxes, or crows. The transformation is not simply physical. It is a merging of the human mind with the instincts of the chosen animal. A skinwalker's purpose is often malicious and rooted in envy, revenge, or the desire for power. They are believed to slip between human society and the wilderness, moving unseen in the night, where boundaries between worlds are thinnest. Many Navajo people describe skinwalkers as being able to mimic voices, footsteps, and even the appearance of familiar relatives. This ability to imitate is part of what makes them so feared, because they exploit trust to move closer to their targets. Some traditional stories say that skinwalkers cover themselves in the hides of the animals they wish to become, wearing them like a second skin. Other accounts describe them using powders or medicines created through taboo rituals that give them the strength and speed of predatory creatures. These creatures are said to run faster than any human, move with unnatural agility, and travel long distances without tiring. In many stories, a skinwalker's eyes remain human even when they are in animal form, which is often the only way to recognize them. When in human shape, their eyes are described as glowing like an animal's, especially in torchlight or firelight, which reveals the corruption of their spirit. Traditional Navajo teachings emphasize that skinwalkers cannot read minds but can sense fear, envy, and emotional instability, which they use to their advantage. They are believed to thrive in places where illness, anger, or grief has weakened spiritual protection. Many communities say that skinwalkers create chaos by manipulating animals, spreading sickness, or causing accidents that appear random. They are often blamed for unexplained livestock deaths, strange noises at night, or footprints that lead nowhere. Some Navajo families tell stories of skinwalkers tapping on windows, scratching walls, or running across rooftops to provoke fear. Others speak of encounters where a coyote stood on two legs for a moment or an owl spoke with a human voice. These stories are not told to entertain but to warn, and they are usually shared only among close family members. It is important to understand that among the Navajo, talking openly about skinwalkers is avoided because it is believed to draw their attention. Elders warn that constant discussion or fascination can invite misfortune or disturb protective spirits. In traditional belief, the best defense against a skinwalker is spiritual strength, maintained through ceremonies and connection to the teachings of the Dine. Medicine men and women play a crucial role in confronting skinwalker activity, using prayers, songs, and rituals to restore balance. They do not fight skinwalkers in a dramatic physical way. Instead, they counter the darkness through healing and restoring harmony. The idea that bullets or weapons can defeat a skinwalker is largely a modern myth with no grounding in traditional Navajo teachings. Instead, Navajo belief says that exposing a skinwalker's identity, especially in front of others, can strip them of power. For this reason, stories often speak of skinwalkers fleeing once they are recognized by name. In many communities, skinwalkers are viewed not as myth but as a very real danger rooted in the misuse of spiritual knowledge. This belief is reinforced by generations of sightings, unexplained events, and cultural teachings passed down through oral tradition. Navajo people do not treat skinwalkers as monsters or fantasy creatures. They are considered humans who broke sacred laws. This distinction is essential because it reflects the cultural understanding that human choices shape the spiritual world. Skinwalker stories often serve as moral lessons, warning young people against greed, jealousy, and the abuse of power. They remind listeners to stay connected to family, community, and cultural teachings that protect them from harmful paths. Some historians believe skinwalker stories emerged as a way to explain acts of human cruelty or misfortune in early Navajo communities. Others argue that the stories are rooted in real experiences with dangerous individuals using spiritual practices for harm. Anthropologists have documented skinwalker beliefs for more than a century, though many Navajo refuse to speak on the subject. Navajo elders often criticize outsiders for treating skinwalkers as entertainment, believing it disrespects sacred traditions. They emphasize that these stories should be handled with sensitivity because they connect to real spiritual fears. When handled respectfully, Skinwalker history provides insight into how Native nations understand balance, morality, and community responsibility. These stories reveal a worldview where spiritual and physical realities are deeply connected, and where actions carry consequences beyond the material world. They illustrate the Navajo belief that power must always be balanced with responsibility and that misusing sacred knowledge brings spiritual corruption. It is also worth noting that many tribes outside the Navajo Nation have their own versions of shape-shifting beings, though the details vary widely. The Hopi speak of Paka sorcerers who use dark magic for harm. The Ute tell stories of shape-shifting witches who take the form of animals. The Apache describe beings with unnatural speed who stalk travelers under moonlight. These similarities suggest that fear of corrupted spiritual power is a recurring theme across tribes of the Southwest. However, it is critical to understand that each tribe's beliefs are unique and should not be combined into one general category. Skinwalkers specifically remain firmly rooted in Navajo tradition and cannot be separated from Dain teachings. Modern retellings often distort these beliefs, turning skinwalkers into horror creatures rather than humans who violated sacred law. The Navajo perspective focuses less on the supernatural spectacle and more on the spiritual danger of abandoning harmony. Because of this, many Navajo communities discourage filming, discussing, or sharing skinwalker stories with outsiders. Yet the fascination persists, fueled by decades of rumors, sightings, and pop culture interpretations. Some of the most well-known modern stories come from regions near Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, a location often associated with unexplained phenomena. However, most Navajo people do not consider Skinwalker Ranch's stories representative of their traditions. They view the ranch's legends as sensationalized and disconnected from authentic Navajo teachings. True Skinwalker stories come from families, elders, and ceremonies that maintain knowledge of these beings as part of a living culture. These accounts are not meant to scare but to instruct, reminding listeners of the importance of staying spiritually grounded. If anything, Skinwalker history teaches that the greatest danger is not the creature itself but the human capacity to abandon balance. It warns that when people choose selfishness or resentment over community, they open doors that should remain closed. This is why Skinwalker stories endure. They represent the consequences of forgetting sacred obligations. To understand them is to understand the core values of the Navajo Nation and the importance of living with respect, harmony, and responsibility. As we close this exploration, remember that these teachings belong to living cultures, not fictional worlds. They reflect the beliefs of communities who still honor the land, the spirits, and the sacred connections between all beings. If you enjoyed learning about the history and meaning of skinwalkers from a native perspective, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And let us know in the comments what other historical or cultural mysteries you want us to explain next, because we'd be honored to tell those stories with accuracy and respect.